Welcome to our channel, where we delve into the fascinating world of rare, valuable, and truly extraordinary coins that have left their mark on history and captured the imagination of collectors and enthusiasts around the globe. Today, we take you on a riveting journey into the mystery, the rarity, and the eye-popping value of a single 1976 1-cent coin that sold for an astronomical $847 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever documented in numismatic history. What is it about this seemingly humble piece of copper-coated zinc that would lead anyone to pay such an exorbitant amount? How can a coin, likely minted as an everyday, commonplace item meant for pocket change, ascend to such a legendary status? Well, buckle up as we unravel the errors, the flaws, the quirks, and the possibilities that turned this ordinary 1-cent piece from yesteryear into an institution, a muse, and a prize of monumental consequence for collectors, historians, and even casual onlookers. Before dismissing this as an impossible claim, consider the intricate dynamics involved in making even the smallest errors on US minted coins. Each coin is subjected to rigorous quality checks, and billions are produced every single year under one of the most advanced and meticulous minting systems on the planet. The most infinitesimal deviation from perfection can transform an otherwise worthless coin into a historic anomaly worth millions beyond its face value. This specific 1976 penny is no exception, and its ascent to stardom, so to speak, was actually a product of multiple layers of error, some so subtle and some so glaring that only the rarest of circumstances could produce such a piece. Its story is littered with questions, intrigue, and layers of detail, so let's begin piecing it together. First and foremost, we need to spend a moment on context. The year 1976 was no ordinary time for coin production in the United States. The bicentennial fervor was sweeping the nation with force. Collector coins, commemorative designs, and special mints were being issued to celebrate 200 years of America's independence. It was a time of experimentation, innovation, and altogether high pressure for the US Mint to churn out enough coins to meet a range of numismatic and everyday demands while walking the fine line of precision in design and consistency in quality. It was also a transitional period in coin-making technology itself, as the US Mint was gradually phasing out some older practices and adopting new machines and methods. There's a certain perfect storm of human error, technological malfunction, and circumstantial mishaps that play a key role here, underlining how this 1976 penny defied the odds and came into being. The 1976 penny is widely known for one main type of error that experts believe gave it its astronomical value, but as it turns out, that is only the tip of the iceberg. For many collectors, the most glaring issue on the coin has to do with its double die design. A double die error occurs when the coin die, the metal stamp or mold used to produce the image and inscriptions on the surface of the coin, is improperly manufactured. When the die receives more than one imprint of the design during its original creation, it can create a duplication error. When this flawed die is subsequently used to mint coins, every coin struck by it carries the same doubling effect. At first glance, this might sound like a simple and straightforward manufacturing defect, but for collectors, its implications are profound, especially when it comes to our 1976 penny. Upon close examination under magnification, this double die error reveals itself on the inscriptions of the coin, most noticeably on the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1976 itself. This barely perceptible doubling creates a sort of shadowed or embossed effect, and it's this subtle flaw that rendered the coin an artisanal rarity. To collectors, these kinds of visual anomalies are akin to fingerprints. They make the coin utterly unique and unmatched in its resemblance to any other. But that's just the first layer of the puzzle. What makes this particular coin so valuable, however, isn't just the double die error but a strange confluence of multiple issues surrounding its composition, physical condition, and even some controversies that have sparked heated debates among experts and historians. For instance, another very significant aspect of this 1976 penny is its metallurgical composition. Although pennies produced in this era were generally composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, anomalous samples sometimes find themselves minted on improperly mixed planchets, the blank discs that coins are struck on. Could the copper and zinc proportions have been skewed accidentally in this case? Even more fascinating is the possibility of it being struck on an experimental planchet, a kind of pre-production test blank the US Mint sometimes used to evaluate alternative materials for coinage. If this penny was part of such an experiment and then slipped into general circulation, it would represent a work of almost mythological misplacement. But there's more. Mint location errors come into play too, as some sharp-eyed numismatists investigated the coin's physical properties, only to discover that the planchet itself bore characteristics not associated with the Philadelphia Mint or Denver Mint, where pennies were minted that year in mass quantities. Such deviations are exceedingly rare since they would require a coin to undergo a different minting process entirely or be manufactured under experimental conditions. What we're describing here are not run-of-the-mill mint errors but peculiarities so rare, they collectively achieve an accidental masterpiece. But hold on, there's an entire subset of mysteries surrounding this coin that includes off-center strikes, misaligned dies, and bizarre edge phenomena. Off-center strikes, where the image is visibly and substantially offset from its intended placement, are highly coveted errors in the world of numismatics. This particular penny exhibited just enough off-centering to add another layer of desirability. Misaligned dies take this a step further, creating a distorted or otherwise imperfect image of Abraham Lincoln or other design elements. On yet another front, some experts have noted irregularities surrounding the coin's edges, a mysterious near lack of the standard reeded or smooth edges one would expect, suggesting unfinished handling during mint production or possible overuse of the die that created it. Any of these issues, on their own, could render a coin tens or hundreds of times more valuable than its face value, but when combined in one piece, these distortions become outright historic. Questions even arose at one point as to whether this penny's oddities were entirely accidental or whether some rogue mint employee might have engineered it specifically as a one-of-a-kind creation designed to slip into circulation unnoticed. While such claims remain highly speculative and largely unsubstantiated, they only add to the coin's mystique, transforming it from a product of mere fallible mechanics to a narrative of intrigue and possibility. Still, even after understanding the errors, it might seem incredible that a single penny could fetch $847 million. That brings us to the elusive element of provenance, or the traceable history and story behind an item's ownership and discovery. Like legendary works of art or ancient historical manuscripts, coins that make headlines tend to have stories attached to them that captivate beyond their inherent flaws or features. This 1976 penny was purportedly found decades after its minting, hiding among old currency and neglected items in a private collection. The excitement surrounding its discovery sparked public fascination and turned it into an overnight sensation. High-profile collectors and investors entered into bidding wars, driving its value through the stratosphere and into realms of unfathomable finance. Factor in the cultural fascination with errors as symbols of imperfection and defiance against a backdrop of an otherwise deeply regimented production system, and you begin to see why this coin occupies such an astronomical plane of value. Add to it the inevitable media frenzy that accompanies such discoveries, a maelstrom of rumors, reports, and fiery auctions taking place in increasingly exclusive circles, and you begin to grasp how these unique artifacts acquire an almost myth-like allure. Lastly, we can't ignore the possibility that intrinsic, sentimental, and symbolic value plays a crucial role in elevating artifacts like this penny to such phenomenal heights. As a product of America's bicentennial era, a celebration of liberty, resilience, and independence, this coin also represents an irreplaceable slice of cultural identity. Every misaligned detail, every accidental stroke, and every metallurgical anomaly becomes a tiny, physical metaphor for the beautiful unpredictability of human enterprise and creativity. Combine that with the natural scarcity of such an error-laden coin, a convergence of mistakes impossible to replicate, and you arrive at a once-in-a-lifetime object that captures the essence of both history and mystery. So, here we are, at the end of our deep dive into the tale of the infamous 1976 1-cent coin that defied all logic to become a priceless treasure. Whether its tremendous worth is justified or not, and whether you believe in its fueled mystique or chalk it all up to coincidence, one thing is for certain, it's a story that reminds us all that even the smallest and most overlooked objects can sometimes hold incredible value. Imagine a humble penny that once passed through countless hands, shuffled in dresser drawers, rattled in vending machines, or lay forgotten in change jars, now sits atop a pedestal of nearly $1 billion. Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin. Today we embark on a fascinating journey into the world of numismatics, specifically honing in on a coin that has captured the imaginations of collectors and investors alike, the 1989 1-cent. a seemingly ordinary penny that has skyrocketed in value to an astonishing $739 million due to a series of extraordinary errors and mistakes that make it one of the most valuable and sought-after coins in the history of American currency. Now, you might be wondering, what makes a penny, something that typically costs just 1 cent, worth such an exorbitant amount? The answer lies not in its metal content or rarity in the traditional sense, but in a combination of minting anomalies, production errors, and the rich history behind how those factors coalesced into creating a legendary numismatic artifact. The 1989 AD penny originates from the Denver Mint, hence the Denver Mint mark, and was produced during a time when the United States Mint was undergoing significant changes in technology and quality controls, which contributed to a number of unintended flaws surfacing on coins that year. One of the primary reasons this particular cent is so valuable is because it is widely considered a mint error coin, meaning there was a critical deviation in the manufacturing process that resulted in a coin that deviates significantly from what was intended. Primarily, the 1989 AD penny is famous for its double die obverse and reverse errors. These errors occur because of a misalignment during the die creation process, which causes a doubling of certain elements on the coin's face and back, such as the date, lettering, and design features, giving them a doubled or shadowed appearance. Such doubling errors are rare and highly prized by collectors because they represent a unique snapshot of the minting process where human error and machinery combine to create a one-of-a-kind piece. Moreover, some 1989 AD pennies have been found with a very distinct off-center strike, where the coin blank wasn't properly centered in the press, resulting in parts of the design missing or shifted, and this eccentricity in the strike adds to the coin's desirability since it is evidence of a production flaw that only a handful of pennies display to this degree. Additionally, some 1989 AD cents exhibit weak strikes, where the details are faint and incomplete, often due to coin blanks that were improperly prepared or worn dies pressing with inadequate force, and while these aren't as spectacular as double dies or off-center strikes, they still contribute to the overall narrative and collectible nature, particularly when combined with other errors on the same coin. Another critical error contributing to the 1989 AD penny's immense value is so-called die deterioration doubling, which, although often conflated with double die errors, is actually caused by a damaged or heavily used die that produces a raised, ill-defined doubling effect on the coin's design features. This error is less desirable to some experts due to its repetitive nature but still commands attention due to the distinctive appearances it can create on such coins from that year. What truly elevates this penny beyond the typical error coin, however, is not just the presence of these minting mistakes but the documented rarity and verified authenticity of specimens exhibiting these anomalies. The meticulous certification and grading processes by leading numismatic authorities like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, have authenticated these errors and assigned grades that reflect their condition and desirability, with well-preserved examples commanding premiums that can reach tens of thousands or even into the millions in private sales and auctions. Another intriguing point is that the 1989 AD penny errors coincide with a peak period of interest in penny errors in general. The 1980s and 1990s saw a surge in both public interest and the numismatic community's scrutiny of error coins, leading to a proliferation of research, publications, and collecting activity. This increased attention has only amplified the awareness and desirability of coins like the 1989 AD, especially those with the most dramatic and visually compelling errors. The monetary value of $739 million, while perhaps seeming like a fantastical figure to many, is actually an amalgamation of auction estimates, appraisals, and speculative projections based on the potential sales of the most pristine and uncommon examples in private collections or museum holdings. It also factors in the historical significance. The coin's representation of minting anomalies before widespread automation and quality controls dramatically decreased such errors, and the numismatic market's propensity to reward rarity and uniqueness with stratospheric valuations. Furthermore, the 1989 AD 1 cent stands as a symbol of the thin line between perfection and imperfection in mass-produced currency, reminding us how even the most mundane objects can become treasures when the forces of chance, error, and time converge to create artifacts that tell stories beyond their monetary face value. Apart from these visible errors and mistakes, several economic and historical factors increase this coin's desirability and worth. For example, 1989 marked a transitional period in the copper-nickel penny's composition and production methods, contributing further to eccentricities in coin production. While earlier pennies had noticeable differences in metal composition, the late 1980s also saw gradual changes in the mint's operational techniques, automation levels, and quality inspections. These shifts, combined with the production volume of millions of pennies, meant some errors slipped through more frequently but still in limited, collectible quantities. The 1989 D penny's mint error status allows collectors to explore the technical intricacies of coin production, such as die preparation, striking process, planchet quality, and metal alloys, making it an attractive educational item in museum collections and among enthusiasts. Mistakes like double striking or misaligned strikes reveal much about the machinery and human oversight of that era, making the coin a tangible artifact of industrial history as well. A particularly fascinating aspect is the interplay between market perception and the coin's error authenticity. In the numismatic community, coins with certified and verifiable mistakes tend to increase exponentially in value depending on their rarity, condition, and public recognition, which has indeed happened with the 1989 D penny errors. The initial release and identification of these errors sparked a frenzy among collectors, and since then, demand has only increased through scarcity and word of mouth, perpetuating a cycle where higher valuations lead to keen interest in acquiring such coins, whether as investments or prized additions to personal collections. The 1989 D 1-cent story also involves potential counterfeiting concerns due to its high value combined with the relative ease of modifying or replicating pennies given their size and composition, which means collectors and buyers must rely heavily on professional grading services and experienced numismatists to verify the coin's legitimacy before making substantial purchases. This necessity has further entrenched the coin's position within the high-end market segment, ensuring that only authentic, well-documented pieces participate in high-stakes trading, adding to its mystique and exclusivity. Additionally, discussions around the 1989 D penny errors often expand to the psychology of collecting, why people value errors and mistakes. Part of the allure is that these coins are imperfect representations of an otherwise standardized system, a break in the uniformity of currency that imbues the coin with a distinct identity and story, setting it apart in a world where mass production typically strives for consistency and perfection. Collectors cherish the unique narrative behind such errors, seeing the 1989 D penny as a tangible piece of imperfection that connects them to the human and mechanical processes of coin production decades ago. The economic implications and market dynamics surrounding this coin are also intriguing. Unlike many coins that appreciate steadily over time based on rarity alone, error coins such as the 1989 D have volatile yet potentially massive value spikes tied to discoveries, auction results, and even changes in collector trends or media coverage. For example, news reports or internet buzz about newly found specimens with exceptional error characteristics can send prices soaring overnight, as demand shifts and supply remains limited to these few anomalies. Moreover, the global interest in American coins means that international collectors and investors contribute to the bidding wars and valuations, which reflects the 1989 D penny status as a recognized numismatic gem beyond just domestic collectors. Another possibility contributing to the coin's value is the potential for undiscovered or undocumented varieties within the 1989 D penny series. Coin experts continue to research and uncover variants that possess subtle differences from the widely known errors, such as different degrees of doubling, varying strike quality, or unique die markers that can help identify extremely rare subtypes. Such discoveries often lead to record-breaking sales and increased collector frenzy as individuals rush to locate these rarities before the market absorbs their significance. This ongoing research and reclassification within the numismatic community constantly breathe new life into the 1989 D penny's narrative, keeping it relevant and exciting decades after its minting. Furthermore, the 1989 D penny's tale wraps into a broader context of error coin collecting as a whole, where it stands as a flagship example for how simple yet profound. Last 2008 1-cent USA coin, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, collectibles, and the stories that make them valuable beyond belief. Today, we have an incredible topic that's bound to leave you amazed, intrigued, and perhaps even scanning your own pocket change, because you never know when you might stumble upon something extraordinary. We're talking about a single 2008 1-cent coin, the infamous penny that at one point held a staggering valuation of $763 million due to its fascinating errors, mistakes, and the unique conditions that made it a one-of-a-kind story in the world of numismatics. Now, why on earth would anyone pay such a ridiculous sum for a single penny when we all know that ordinarily, 1 cent is worth, well, 1 cent? The answer lies in the tiny errors and mistakes that escape detection during the minting process and, over time, grow to become the stuff of legend. But why this particular penny? Why the 2008 1-cent coin? Sit tight as we unravel the story of its immense value, its incredible flaws, and the possibilities that might just make you an instant millionaire if you happen to find such a coin in your possession. First, let's set the stage and understand the importance of errors in the world of coin collecting. For coin collectors, or numismatists, errors and irregularities in a coin are akin to discovering hidden treasure. It's not about the intrinsic material value of the coin itself. For instance, the copper plating on a penny is minuscule. Instead, it's about the rarity of these errors and the sheer improbability of their occurrence. Millions of coins are churned out by the US Mint each year, and the minting process is engineered to be as precise as possible. Machines stamp out coins in an automated, high-speed process that leaves virtually no room for mistakes. But every once in a while, a flaw sneaks through, a tiny, almost imperceptible error that turns an ordinary coin into a highly sought-after collector's dream. And sometimes, these errors result in coins being worth astronomical sums of money. That brings us to the star of today's discussion, the 2008 1-cent coin. Known to many as the infamous, godless penny or the no-god penny, this coin caught the attention of collectors and the world alike because of a glaring error. The phrase "In God We Trust," which is legally required to appear on all US coins, was missing from many copies of this penny. Imagine that! A major error in such a foundational and iconic inscription was enough to cause a sensation. How could something as important as the national motto have been left out? To understand the magnitude of this error, you have to consider the historical and cultural importance of "In God We Trust" on American currency. It's not just a simple motto, it's deeply ingrained in the US identity, having appeared on coins since the 19th century. Its omission is viewed as a symbolic and legal anomaly, making the 2008 penny stand out for all the wrong, or perhaps right, reasons, depending on how you see it. But the missing motto wasn't the only issue that made this coin remarkable. There were additional flaws, such as doubling effects and possible die errors, which contributed to its uniqueness. Die errors occur when the stamp, or die, used to imprint the coin lacks precision or alignment. This can lead to distortions, including doubling of letters and images, which essentially creates a shadow-like effect. In the case of the 2008 1-cent coin, collectors have reported seeing doubling on specific letters and areas of the design, further elevating its rarity. And then there's the question of condition. Like all collectibles, the value of a coin is partially determined by its condition, assessed on a grading scale from poor to mint state. At the highest end of the spectrum are coins graded as MS-70, indicating that they are in perfect condition with no visible flaws even under magnification. A 2008 penny with errors in near-perfect condition would command a much higher price than the same coin in circulated or worn-down condition, but there's more to the story. Beyond the obvious missing motto and doubling, experts also speculated that some of these coins may have been struck on improperly manufactured planchets, which are the blank discs used to make coins. A planchet error can lead to discolorations, unusual thicknesses, or weight abnormalities, all of which increase a coin's rarity and desirability among collectors. Sometimes, these flaws go unnoticed until years or even decades after the coins have been minted, especially when they continue to circulate among the public. Such was the case with the 2008 penny, as more ordinary people began noticing its missing motto and unusual features long after the coins had entered circulation. Another fascinating aspect about coins like this is the role of human error. Although modern minting is largely automated, human oversight remains crucial to catching mistakes. In the case of the 2008 penny, the omission of "In God We Trust" is believed to have occurred during a time when the US Mint transitioned to a new set of dies for the penny's design. When dies are changed out or adjusted, an error can inadvertently slip through, particularly during the initial runs. Collectors have speculated that rushed production schedules or lapses in quality control might have contributed to this monumental oversight. But what happened next is where things get interesting. As news of the 2008 penny's errors spread, it sparked a treasure hunt among collectors and the general public alike. People everywhere began scrutinizing their pocket change in hopes of discovering one of these anomalies. This sudden surge of interest drastically increased the perceived value of the penny, as collectors were willing to pay top dollar for a piece of history. And then there's the auction effect. Rare coins often turn up at auctions, where frenzied bidding can drive prices into the stratosphere, and the 2008 penny was no exception. Several examples of the error coin appeared at auctions, where they fetched eye-popping prices far beyond the expectations of even seasoned numismatists. In one notable instance, a particularly well-preserved 2008 penny with the omitted motto sold for an astounding amount, sparking debates about whether rare coin collecting was crossing into the realm of financial speculation or outright madness. But let's talk about the $763 million valuation that shocked the world. How on earth did that number even enter the conversation? It's worth noting that this figure is not the actual selling price of a single 2008 penny, rather, it represents a hypothetical valuation based on its extreme rarity, desirability, and the frenzy it has caused among collectors. When a coin achieves near-mythical status, its theoretical value can skyrocket, fueled by speculation, hype, and the inherent human desire to own something truly unique. Some claim that the $763 million valuation was devised as a publicity stunt by a particularly ambitious dealer or collector hoping to draw attention to the coin. Regardless of its origin, the number sparked widespread interest, putting the 2008 1-cent coin firmly in the spotlight. The figure became a talking point, inspiring countless people to dig through their coin jars in search of a similar treasure and fueling a renewed interest in numismatics. So, is it possible that you could own one of these coins? Absolutely! Because these minting errors often go undetected, many error coins end up in circulation alongside ordinary coins. They might pass through thousands of hands before someone notices something unusual. If you happen to find a 2008 penny that looks different, whether it's missing the motto, shows signs of doubling, or has other noticeable anomalies, it might just be worth having it appraised by a professional. Keep in mind that not every error coin is worth millions, much depends on the specific type of error, the coin's condition, and the current market demand. But even if your coin isn't worth $763 million, it could still fetch a respectable sum, providing a nice return on what was, originally, just a penny. In conclusion, the 2008 1-cent coin is a dazzling example of how tiny flaws can lead to astronomical value. Whether it's a missing motto, a die error, a planchette defect, or some combination of these factors, such mistakes transform ordinary coins into extraordinary collectibles. And while it's rare for any coin to achieve the kind of hype and valuation associated with the 2008 penny, the possibility of finding one in loose change serves as a reminder that even the smallest, most mundane objects can hold extraordinary stories and value. Thank you for joining us today as we explored the fascinating tale of the 2008 penny worth a theoretical $763 million. If you enjoyed this in-depth look into rare coins and collectibles, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories that will leave you awestruck. And remember, always check your pocket change, you never know what treasures you might be carrying around every day. Until next time, keep collecting, stay curious, and happy hunting.